And I would like to ask Dr. Bikos to come to the podium. Dr. Bikos is currently the head of DEPA Gas Wholesale, including pricing and commercial policy. He has several positions before in DEPA, and he holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Chemical Engineering with studies in Greece and the UK. Please, Mr. Bikos.
Hello everybody, thanks for sticking with us at this late time of the day. We had some technical difficulties before and we seem to be sticking with technical difficulties, but hopefully, like the LNG supply chain, we're going to get there. So first, just to say that DEPA is the ex-DESFA parent and the largest importer of LNG and natural gas in Greece at the moment, and therefore stands to perhaps become the largest bunkering agent with LNG in this country. What I'm going to present today is two things. One, LNG as marine fuel. I'll try not to bore you because a lot has been said about it in the past. And some things about the benefits and perspectives, things about availability and pricing. We all know that LNG has come to the scene as a marine fuel just because people have felt badly about polluting seas around Europe. This is now expanding, as you know, around the Mediterranean area, and therefore a lot more sulfur control is going to be imposed upon these seas. LNG is here to help in that quest. Why LNG? There's a lot of contestants to do this job. There's obviously methanol and low sulfur fuel oil, etc., etc. However, LNG is here at a large scale. It is a proven fuel. It has been proven to be safe in uses onshore. It is environmentally friendly. I'll talk about it a bit more. And it therefore is bound to benefit from synergies, from economies of scale with the use onshore. In terms of its properties, you know, it's a gas that is refrigerated, is minus 162 degrees. It's therefore like oxygen, nitrogen, etc., all the industrial gases, a bit hotter than that, of course. It's easily transferred and stored because it contracts to about 1/600 of its normal volume. It does emit a lot less emissions, and in particular greenhouse gases. And the circle to the right shows that a lot better. You can see the percentage reduction in all the main emissions. It's highly efficient, and in terms of its environmental friendliness outside the GHG, it is clear, it is odorless, it is colorless, it's non-toxic. So it's got a lot of good things going for it. Question is whether it can actually come up with a reasonable solution for the shipping industry. Now, it seems as though we are entering the LNG era, with or without bunkering. It seems as though LNG, in terms of its share in the gas trade, is going up and up, simply because it's so mobile, and simply also because the places where you can find gas extracted these days are a lot of the time far apart from the markets it is going to. Therefore, one has to move it from one side to the other. That involves more and more the sea, and therefore its liquefaction and transportation as LNG. It's true that what we call small-scale LNG is coming along quite nicely. There's a lot of infrastructure being created in countries with untoward geography to gas, for example, Spain. Also in islands, for example, Ibiza and others. And that a lot of this infrastructure for onshore use is in countries where there have been large-scale regasification terminals. So Greece is the one that does have a large-scale regasification terminal. Tatiana spoke about it, and is now embarking on building its small-scale LNG infrastructure to try and get gas into areas which it cannot bring through pipelines. There's a lot of LNG fueling stations for trucks now in Europe, as there are in the States and elsewhere. And this is because people have cottoned on the environmental friendliness of LNG for transportation. And so heavy trucks and lorries going through international travel are increasingly adopting LNG as the main fuel. It is also seen that projects which concern SSLNG in the sea and river locations are growing, and they're moving to higher numbers as time goes by. So it seems as though there's a wave, if you like, of LNG coming on as a mature fuel for all sorts. Numbers of LNG-fueled vessels vary depending on somebody's source, but they seem to be going up and up. They seem to be growing as time grows, and the Greek ship owning seems to be having a good share of that. What's very important about the security of supply and pricing of LNG as a marine fuel is that the fundamentals worldwide seem to be favoring a kind of a surplus, if you like. So it seems as though price-wise there are not going to be high pressures, so the price goes up, and it also seems that there's going to be enough of the stuff going around in the world. A lot of people start writing about LNG, which means that people have got vested interest, a lot of money has gone into the infrastructure, and shipping is following. So LNG for Greece in particular is very important, only because it has 2,500 islands which can become a lot cleaner with LNG. 165 of them inhabited. There's a vested interest in the country and its government to push for cleaner fuel, and that means that there's going to be a different interest aside from shipping that is going to push for LNG in the next few years. By the way, Greece has also got 162 ports, out of which only 4 or 5 have been studied for LNG, but there's a lot more coming on at a later stage, and I'm sure Mr. Liapis is interested in all of them. You can see here just a small picture of where gas is coming through pipeline into the country. You can see the backbone is on the east side of the country. But the west of it is now empty, and this is exactly where we need SSLNG to come and stem the lack. It's also in the Aegean Sea and the Ionian Sea where all these islands lie. So we've got a bright future in front of us. Let me focus a bit on security of supply, which seems to have been one of the arguments against LNG in the past. Just to say that Greece, as you know, is situated in an area which is becoming more and more a source of gas through new finds and the exploitation of existing finds of oil and gas. There is a hefty work for exploration in the Ionian Sea and the south of Crete area, and there is a lot happening down the bottom right of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, as time goes, these finds are going to find a way into the market. A lot about infrastructure is being built at the moment in terms of studies, and obviously the construction will follow, so that gas in the form of LNG is going to become probably a lot more abundant in this region than it has been in the past. In this respect, this area, this corner of the world, is not going to suffer from lack of gas, even if international trade becomes less buoyant as is today. Just to put another positive note to the subject, you can see the map of movements of ships in the Mediterranean, and you can very well see that one of the red lines that exists, which shows high density, crosses the Aegean and passes through Piraeus. That's why Piraeus is a good place to put bunkering. And of course, the rest of the ports that have been studied are also within a higher density percentile of the region. So we've got the ships, we've got the material, all we need to do is marry the two. And that's what we want to do. Going to the last topic, which is the hottest presumably, is one of pricing. Now, we picked prices in the middle of May out of Platts, and we've put the numbers here. You can see numbers in the Far East and numbers in sort of southwest of Europe, which are probably more relevant to Greece and this region. And you can see that the two liquid fuels, the cleaner one, the MGO, that's the black one up there, is about double the price of LNG today. That's bulk prices, that's international trade, that's not delivered to ports. Tell a lie, the liquid fuels are delivered to ports. The LNG is delivered to large regasification terminals as Revithusa. So there is a gap between the two. It's ample. And the question that we're facing and the work we're doing now is to try and set up a supply chain from the large regasification terminal into the ports of delivery, such that with the ship share capex and the logistics share capex is not going to go beyond the cost of the existing fuel today. This is a large bet, but this is what we're all trying to do. And of course, we're not trying just to match the gap, we're trying to narrow that. We're trying to create a capex which will be as small as possible. Hence, the numbers that Tatiana showed are a first stab to infrastructure, but of course, there is always going to be room for improvement, and this is another struggle that we are in at the moment. And if somebody is suspicious of prices in the middle of May 2018, just to show where the MGO in the Mediterranean lay over the last 10 years, and where the LNG in the Southwest Europe price is also lying, you can see that in all of this time, 8 years, LNG is always below MGO, and that gives you hope. Of course, that has been happening while you may say the LNG has not been into bunkering. But as I said before, the prices in LNG are more likely to be governed by onshore uses, because that's where the bulk of the material has been used, rather than bunkering itself. And we can see that today's picture is the red spots, is pretty much in line with where the trends are for the two fuels over the last 10 years. So that kind of gives us some certainty that the competitiveness of LNG, even after the expenses to have it delivered on port, is likely to remain high, and therefore the fuel attractive. And with that, I think I'll leave you. Thank you very much for the attention.